Hey guys, this is Jonathan McCormack. I'm an attachment specialist in New York, and this is going to be part two of a multi-series on attachment, sexuality, and desire. This is based largely off of Emily Nagoski's book, Come As You Are. And then at the end, I'll give a meditation for sexual shame. I'm really not the sex guy. I'm not comfortable in that position. But when it impinges upon attachment issues, it can become important. I do the ideal parent figure protocol, where you kind of imagine ideal parents giving you those things you needed. I do parts work and a bunch of other things. For couples problems, you really want to see a sex therapist, which I'm not. But this is pretty basic stuff, and as it impinges upon attachment, I can't find my way around it. So in her book, her big revelation is that women's sexual being, you have to take context into account. Yeah, it doesn't just happen, apparently. I'm amazed that people don't understand that, I've talked about young women, I've asked buddies, what's it like being a sex therapist? Basically, you get asked, is this normal? All day long. That's it, And indeed, I get that question a lot. So a young lady will say, yeah, I can enjoy sex, but only if I use a toy for an hour and I get 3 shots of Jaeger and this and that. Is that normal? Yeah, that's normal because you're made only to do that when you feel safe, when you feel trusted. And if you're going to have sex with strangers, you're either going to have to shut that off or numb it, So, yeah, the fact that you have to do all that does make sense. Ideally, you would want to create an environment where you have a partner that you trust, that your life isn't too stressed out. So when you're dealing with this, if someone's having, women especially, achieving kind of sexual desire, you're going to have to determine what your stressors are. What is the term? Go back and think about the times it was great and it was bad. And look what was happening. What was the environmental factors? When you have any stressor, and attachment stressors are the biggest, if you don't feel you're bonded to your partner, if you don't feel you can trust him, that can be larger than your crappy boss, your crappy life, So it's not even about the sex, but the context. And whenever you feel stressed, your body reacts in 3 different ways. It could become, flight, fight, or shut down. Fight happens when there's a stressor and you need to conquer that thing. You need to conquer it. Flight is obviously when you run away, escape that thing, get away. And if you can't escape and it looks like a hopeless situation, then your body just freezes, shuts down. So you can look at the stresses in your life. If you have worry, anxiety, fear, and terror, that's fight. You're going to feel irritation. You're going to be very annoyed, frustrated. There's going to be anger, Or you can experience kind of emotional numbness, shutdown, depression, and despair, distress, If you're in a situation where you think it's hopeless, you just play dead, then you'll just notice, you'll just shut off, And the problem is that if you're under any stress, people tend to interpret any signals as threats much more. If you're relaxed and you trust your partner, you're less likely to do that. But when you're stressed, everything's a threat, And the key to managing stress is to complete the cycle, Unlock from the freeze, escape the predator, kill the enemy, rejoice. However, if your stress is chronic, and it is for a lot of us, that activated stress kind of just hangs inside us, making us sick, tired, unable to experience any pleasure. It's such a shame, though, because our culture has eliminated our ability to get out our stress. We used to have rituals and carnivals and functions where we would scream and laugh and get a little crazy and be able to get out our despair and our rage and our fear. I've seen prayer services where people are like weeping. I've seen this, where can you do that today? Where can you do that today? It's just all stuck inside. So so she says there's a couple things you can do. They're not mind-blowing. I mean, they're obvious. But one, the best, really is physical activity. It's the most efficient strategy for completing a stress cycle. Exercise is good for stress. That is true on a very deep level. So, exercise, There's other things that can help. Again, these are obvious things. Sleep. This is why I don't like a lot of these books, because it's like, yeah, I know this, affection. Any form of meditation actually helps. Body scans, allowing yourself to cry. Anything that communicates to your body, you are safe. You have escaped. Meditation's good for that. I tell you, one of the worst things that can happen is when sex itself becomes the lion. That becomes the threat. That can happen in trauma. And that's very neurotically torturous. So that type of person will need a great deal of security to be able to unfreeze. You're going to have to experience your fear and your panic and your rage that's frozen to let it go. That's the only way. But then after you do that, this is like the transforming it to like, oh, relationships are kind of safe now. You're kind of getting into it. All those sensations and ideas that used to be interpreted as a threat will slowly have a different meaning. They'll be safer. But vice versa. You could be with someone and all the sexual signals, and it's great, and then you get stressed out of your mind, and he or she does the same things, and you're interpreting it differently. Before it was like nice. Now it's like, what were you trying to get into my boundaries, try to, invade my space. When you're interpreting things differently, there's a whole lot of stress, because especially with sexual abuse and whatnot, because you're in survival mode. You are not in thriving mode. And when you're surviving, sex is like the last thing you're thinking about. When you're running away from a lion, that's not important. So how you deal with this, and she gives us kind of 3 ways, and you guys know this, but one of them is the top down, and that's if you go to you're changing your thoughts. Cognitive behavioral therapy. I'm not a fan of any of these things. I've done it. I've changed my thoughts that way, but it takes a long time, and it takes discipline. Most people won't do it. I mean, just for instance, to change black and white thinking, oh, this person's always doing that. I'm always messing up. You actually sit down, get a piece of paper out, and you write your thought. Then you correct it. Well, sometimes that person's annoying, sometimes they're not. They're just like humans. And then you give a correct thought. And after doing this day after day after day after day, you kind of start doing it in your mind. And then pretty soon you don't have to write it down. It just kind of, you say to yourself, oh, this person's always, wait. No, they're not always. Sometimes they're doing it. I did that, but I got to tell you, I stuck with it. I wrote it down. And it took months and months and months to change some of these thoughts. That's a slow process. That's what a lot of therapy is. The other way is bottom up, which is kind of semantic approach. This is when you process these emotions in your body, get in touch with your body. I'm a big fan of semantic practices. The body knows the score. And then the third way is sideways, mindfulness, meditation. Boy, if you can combine them all, if you can do a little somatic work and work on your thoughts, notice those patterns, and meditate. That's kind of the ultimate, you know. What happens is essentially when you're in an adult relationship and someone looks like they're going to break up, you may, for a lot of people's attachment problems, get a panic like, I am going to die without this person. Well, yeah, if that's what it feels, and intellectually, you know that's not true, but that's what it feels like. So yeah, you're going to text that person 80 times a day if you're going to die, because when you're a kid, you might. Without your parent, you would die. I mean, I've seen in the mall, just walking the mall, mother and a little kid, and the kid doesn't want to leave the store, you know, says, I'm staying. And the mother says, okay, well, I'm leaving. Boom, and leaves. All of a sudden, he's all alone. Panic, screaming, runs after the mother. That's an appropriate response. That's exactly what you should do if you think you're going to get left alone. But if you're an adult, you cannot get abandoned. Only little children can get abandoned. So you have to change the way you're thinking. One way is to stop using the word need or think, I need a relationship, I need sex, no. It's valuable. It's valuable. And if you lose it, it'll be sad. But you don't need it to survive. You don't. So you kind of want to get that child part to say, hey, I'm no longer 8. I no longer need relationships for survival. They're still very valuable, you know. But you have to get the unconscious update. You can do the parts work. You know, go back to the wounded child. You can give a new internal environment, like I do with the ideal parent protocol. So there's different ways out there to do this, you know. So you're an adult, but your body still doesn't know that, you know. So that feeling of love is the feeling of feeling whole. You feel whole. And when you don't have it, it feels like you're broken because attachment. There's a science of falling in love. Oftentimes people will ask me, you know, young girl, like, I don't know if I love this guy. Do I love? Okay, this is what you're doing if you love him. You'll see yourself doing this. Forget about feelings. I don't go by feelings. Forget about those. Those are very confusing. Yeah, I know people be like, yeah, especially women's head. Feelings are confusing in everyone's head, believe me. My head. But if you're falling in love, you'll notice yourself doing proximity seeking. In other words, you want to be around that person. It feels good to be around them. They regulate you. They regulate you. Are you eager to see them? To be close to them as much as possible? You might not. Like, once I'm there, it's fun. But no, I really don't. Well, if you're really falling in love, you'll have that. Also, when something goes wrong in your life, it could be anything, spare tire, boss yells at you, what's your impulse? If your impulse is to tell your partner about it and seek them out for support, again, that's a sign you're falling in love with this person. You know, that's part of it. When you leave and you separate, is there distress? Do you feel worse? You know, is this person a secure base? Does this person feel like an emotional home? You know? And you'll see, if you get all those, then that is a sign that you're falling in love. You know, do I love this person? Are you doing those things? Forget about how you feel, what you think. Are you doing those? Unfortunately, for anxious attachment, your attachment system is always on, chronically activated. And you need a lot of safety to feel calm. Sue Johnson says that people like that, anxious attachment, will use soulless sex, like for solace, for comfort. That motivation is to prove that you're loved. Oftentimes that's not very pleasurable. It's satisfying. You know, it's kind of like because it relieves tension. Not the pleasure comes from the relief and the release. Oh, I'm so relaxed now. But it doesn't go into kind of ecstasy. And this is what people don't understand. You know, people with attachment issues, they walk around, you see them, they seem fine. You know, And you talk to them like, no, I'm in a lot of pain. Why? Listen, inside your body, constant message, either I am lost or I am home. That's it. And it's silent. It's in there. I've talked about people, I've nearly died maybe 7 or 8 times consciously. And during those times, the past disappears. There is no future. There is no future. You're dying. That's it. Flashing before your eyes, the life thing happens. And you just get this signal in your body that's like panic, that like, something is so wrong. Something's so wrong. And you don't know what. It's like everything's wrong. You become very conscious of it. You feel a wrongness in the pit of your stomach, in your body, even in your soul. Something is terrible and it's wrong and it's terrifying, Anyone who's been through like a near-death experiences will say that. I've never seen a light or had anything like that though. Any religious figures, nothing like that. So someone described this to me. He came over here from Nigeria, and he's like, man, the women in America, very strange. He's traveled around the world. I was like, why? He goes, well, 2 things. One, they don't smile. That's very unusual. He's traveled all over Africa and some other countries, and the women smile there. I was like, well, this might be a cultural thing. He's like, I don't know. I think they're a lot unhappier. Maybe. But the other thing is, like, he actually said this with the men too. He's like, when I walk around, I just get this feeling of like little children wandering around with this lost look, and like almost everything they see is like, are you my daddy? Are you my daddy? Like, and that struck me because that's exactly what it's like. You're lost and you're constantly looking for your attachment figure, and this signal's going on, and it can be demoralizing. It's constant, something's wrong. And something is wrong. In a tribal society, if you weren't well socialized with a lot of friends in a group, you were in trouble. Food runs out, you're the first guy to go. Something happens, you're on the edge. Your body is telling you, like the signals, some attachment specialists say, like it's almost like your body's telling you, your village is gone, it's been destroyed, you're on your own. And you're like, oh my Lord, because we're designed to just notice familiar faces, familiarity. If you have attachment problems, you might not have a lot of friends, not a lot of familiarity. Your whole system is, I am lost, Sue Johnson even describes the soulless sex as soothing, but not erotic, Avoidance, they have sealed off sex, which is very erotic, but it's empty. It really is empty. They don't feel anything. That's not real pleasure, This is like the bad news. You will crave sex more when your relationship is unstable. And it's true. When it's very stable, very safe. But when it's unstable and you feel a little threatened, that's when your attachment problem goes on. And it really is true. I've heard the pickup artist guys, they'll say like, oh, this is what you want to do is use with your girl is soft dread. Yeah, you want her to always think you might leave and give those signals, maybe flirt in front of her, maybe this is so evil, just bringing up this anxiety. But does it work? Yeah, actually it does. It does. It hyper activates their attachment, if that's what you want. If you just want them to be glommed onto you, if you want them to know you and to love you, then don't do that, Take it easy and slow. So that's kind of unfortunate. Now, as far as like if you do go see a sex therapist, they're just gonna tell you a couple things. I mean, I've read this stuff, and it's usually like first they give you permission, and you think you can do this yourself, but something about having a trained specialist, and they'll say, And you can do this yourself, by the way. You don't have to go to a therapist. If you're having problems, the first step is stop having sex. Just stop doing it. You make a rule for like a month, 3 weeks, 3 months, whatever's comfortable for you, because it takes the pressure off. You have to first concentrate on. You think like, oh, we're going to talk about sexual thing. No. Even if you go to a good sex therapist, they're going to say stop sex. Now let's work on effective strategies for managing your stress. And you think, but this isn't psychological. This isn't about me. It's about It is, but that it is. But one of the most powerful ways of changing the context of your sex life is to take away the stress of performance anxiety, all the feelings that come with being obligated, to have sex. You just take that off the board, and now you can deal with kind of the real issues. It depends on your attachment style. Secure attachers usually have more positive emotions, more frequent, and they kind of have a higher level of arousal, better communication. That's obvious, and that's true. Anxious attachment are more likely to engage in soulless sex, using that as an attachment behavior, which can make it very intense. But at the end of the day, it's not all that pleasurable, not all the time, because they worry about it. To them, that's the quality of their relationship. That's the quality. If it's the sex bit, then we're good. If the sex bit, then we're bad. You might not like it, but you don't have to have sex. You don't have to do that. Like, you just don't do that. You won't die without it. And you can have a happy marriage without it. 50% of marriages are sexless after the first 5 years. And they can still kind of rate themselves as good, And even when they ask them, like, okay, you have a good marriage, what role does sex play in it? They'll only say about 7%. That's only about 7% of why it's good, So that's not the most important factor, it really isn't. Now, I will say, people say their marriage is bad, and they ask what percentage is sex. They'll say, like, 40%, 45, even 50% of it. So yeah, if it's bad, this can be a big thing. But if everything's good, that's not a major component. And also, I'll just say that you don't even have to. You don't have to have a relationship. Like, I'll just tell you, you don't have to have one. I'll give you permission. You could be single and have no sex and be fine. And that doesn't mean you're a loser. You're this. That's just what your mind is attaching to it. That doesn't mean that. It doesn't mean anything. And you can still live a very erotic, passion-filled life, because it's really a way of being in the world. So what she recommends, I know these recommendations. That's why these books, it's like, is this really going to help? But these are things you can do by yourself. One of them, staying over your own emotional center of gravity. And that means owning your feelings, listening to them, being responsive without being reactive, and taking them seriously. That's in contrast to running away or trying to shift the emotions onto your partner. That happens all the time. I felt this way. Okay, let's deal with that. Because he did this. Well, we're not going to change him. But let's take ownership. No one makes you feel anything. Other people be in the same situation. They will feel irritated or frustrated, because their mind is reading that situation differently. And anger, I would say, never serves a good purpose in a relationship. Anger is for borders. But when it comes to communication, anger makes you less logical. It'll make you misinterpret signals, and it's simply never useful. You may be very hesitant to give that up because you need that anger to protect you. But I'm telling you, you can set up those boundaries consciously with that anger. The other thing about being aware of your emotions, she says, is your emotions are not more important or less important than your partner's. She says your pain doesn't automatically make your experience more valid. Like, but I feel so bad. He did. That doesn't mean what he did was terrible, you know, or she. It's when we're in emotional pain, we tend to prioritize easing that pain. When we're angry, when you're in pain, the first thing we think is, I need to get out of this. I need to express it. Something has to be done. We're not really thinking about our partner's experience. We're not really thinking that our partner's having a different perspective and a different experience because we're so wrapped up in our own pain. So she makes it, each person is 100% responsible for their feelings. Partners in a healthy relationship will choose to help each other with their feelings, but it's always a choice. John Gottman, there's only like two big people. It's like John Gottman's one of them. Read John Gottman, go to him. He knows everything. And he says, like, we turn toward our partner's needs. And when our partner supports us, we express gratitude because we don't take it for granted. It's like, no, they actually support us. You should be thankful, So this is her basic process for this. You get in touch with your body, get in touch with your feeling. The first thing you do is you name the feeling. I'm telling you, this is difficult. I work with a lot of people, and I do the Ideal Parent Protocol, and I go, what are you feeling? And they have no idea. They can't name it. And sometimes they can, but they don't communicate it, especially avoidant people, because I know what I'm feeling. Why would I tell you? But this is a relationship. That's part of it. Sharing it actually does change our experience. So name it. Name it. I'm feeling jealous, angry. Welcome it. Step 2, you welcome this feeling. Because it's giving you information. That's important, and it's trying to help. People describe, I sabotage myself. I'm my own worst. I don't believe that. I believe the mind is always trying to help you. Always. It might be getting in the way. It might be trying to help you in the way it was when it was 8 years old. But you're not going to have a relationship with this part of yourself unless you welcome it. Because people hate, I hate that I get angry. I hate that this. That's not practicing self-compassion. If you keep launching that part of you is not really going to communicate. It's not going to heal. You're not going to be in a positive relationship with it. So, name the feeling. Welcome the feeling. You don't run away from it. You don't judge it. Don't get mad. Don't shame. You just sit with it like a welcome guest. 3, you take responsibility for the feeling. Okay? If you feel fear, whatever, and it's a threat, how can you manage it? If it's sadness, ask, how can I heal this? You ask yourself. You take this is my responsibility to heal. How can this get healed? And you can even get in touch with this feeling, feel in your body, and ask, like, if this feeling could talk, what would it be telling me? And you can actually ask, what will help? Ask. I know it sounds insane, but you might get a word, a memory, a picture, And then here's the big 4th one. Communicate the feeling and the need. You think this would be the easiest part, but people, especially more unavoidant, are often very frightened to communicate the feeling. Even with me, I'm telling you, it's very difficult to get someone to tell me what they're feeling. And communicate the need. So, but you take responsibility to say, I'm feeling fear now. You're making me feel fear. When you do this, you make me feel, no. Just for the sake, you communicate, I feel fear. I think what would help would be if you checked in on me more, if you text me every morning, if you asked me X, Y, and Z. You're not threatening. I feel threatened by the time you spend with your coworker. And I can use some kind of plan that'll give me reassurance. I still have this hurt. Instead of letting it, I still have this hurt about the time you did X. And what I need is some time to get through it. Some time to get through the I'm still upset about that. Give it a name. She almost describes this as like a hedgehog, and I actually like that. I like hedgehogs. I have no idea why she picked hedgehogs, but I dig hedgehogs, so good for her. She's like, these feelings, it's like a hedgehog. Give it a name. What is this? Is like fear. Peacefully sit on your lap. Figure out what it needs. What do you need? What do you need? And then tell your partner about the need and collaborate. Like this getting angry hedgehog. What's going on here? You step back. So you kind of got to befriend it, when your attachment message is I am lost, you're going to automatically act different ways. You need to discharge the stress response, complete the cycle before you can go home. If you're with your partner, if there's that stress, it will not feel like home, not physically or emotionally. People could tell you, just relax, And when I say home, I mean home is where you can feel a loving presence. If it's with a partner, ideally someone who will listen with calm, attentive, warm attunement. In a great relationship, you're allowed to experience all your forms of stress and whatnot. That can be difficult. So when I do the ideal parent figure meditation, though, the ideal parents, you can say anything. You say, I don't believe this. I think this is false. I'm enraged about X, Y, and Z. You could feel anything. Whereas normally you can't. And you articulate it. So it's great. It's like a gymnasium for that. And this is really the water of life for a good relationship. It's either going to be I am at risk or I am safe. I am broken or I am whole. I am lost or I am at home. And I got to tell you, there's people walking around who feel unsafe, broken, and lost. And people look at them and be like, what's the matter? Why is life so difficult for you? Try to live like that. When you feel so insecure, you're not going to get a lot done in life. It's very difficult. It depends. Certain things, yes, because like avoidant people have all this time and energy, and they can be wildly successful, So the next thing is self-compassion. You need to stop beating yourself up. Admit to the world, this is shocking, that you will never be perfect. Yeah. That's frightening. Because when you stop criticizing yourself, it's almost like, oh, I'll never be perfect. That means I'll forever be inadequate. Forever. That's it. Inadequate to everything. Yeah, that's not what that means. No one's perfectly adequate, So you practice compassion. And this is huge. Like the whole fixing your attachment problem. It's like getting in touch with your emotions, getting embodied, and practicing compassion toward yourself. And that's really it. So self-compassion has three different, first is self-kindness. And that's just to treat yourself with generosity and caring. The second one is a common humanity. Our sufferings kind of bring us into a common club. Not everyone feels the same joys, but I have to say most of us feel a lot of the same types of sufferings. So when you're suffering, ask yourself, does that connect you to other people? Or does that further isolate you and you feel separate? That's how 12-step groups come. You have all this common suffering, and that suffering actually connects you to other people, and you feel more connected. That's why people read, a lot of people on the schizoid end or avoidant, literature is their life, because they can connect to emotions, and they can connect their humanity with others. Because at the same time, avoidant people, they don't feel that common humanity with other people. If they're suffering X, Y, and Z, that sets them aside, because this person is not. This person, they'll ignore that person, but this person is not. And the third thing is mindfulness, just being non-judgmental. Whatever's happening is happening. I will say that self-compassion is not self-esteem. Self-esteem is more about self-evaluation, your perceived value as a human being. Compassion is whatever you feel about yourself. You're going to treat yourself like an old, beloved friend. She has, and she actually has that exercise. Basically, write down the description about yourself. It could be anything that you're beating yourself up about, sexual or not. All the self-critical judgments. And then she says, write down the name of a good friend on the top of the page and imagine that that friend is describing the problem, you know? And imagine that that friend is asking you for help. And what would you tell that friend in the most empathetic, supportive way? And then think about the way you treat yourself, you know? And I do that sometimes. People will, I'll hear this negative self-talk, so I'll go to correct it real quick. And be like, well, boy, if you had a friend who's going through that, would you be telling her you're an idiot and you're not worthy? And just because, you know, her job, she got a bad report, really? Would you be telling her that? You know, because deep down inside, you know that that's not true. So here's another practice. This is going to be a little weird, but you know everything you don't like about yourself. Believe me, I don't even have to ask. You have that down. All things you don't like about your body. Practice the opposite. Take your clothes off, naked, and go to the mirror and write down everything you see that you do like. I know it's going to happen. You're going to be filled with disgust and self-criticism. Oh, God, look at this, look at that. Everything looks terrible. Just let your judgments go and notice only the things you like. You're going to have to do this over and over. It's tough. You're like, okay, well, this doesn't look good, but good Lord, look at this. This is awful. There has to be something you like about yourself, and we're going to find it, and you practice that. And the third thing she says is forget about the media. Just stop watching it, which is true. Because the media, I haven't watched TV or anything. I don't even have a TV in years and years. I'm a lot happier. You know, I don't have to watch guys with like perfect bodies and suave, and they have tons of money. Boy, I'd feel very self-conscious if that's all I saw. If my brain was like, that is what a regular man is. A regular man has 8-pack abs and this, that, the other thing. Oof, I guess I'm a lot worse than him, you know. And the funny thing is, I go to the gym like 5 times a week, and you know, girls come like, "Oh, I you're here all the time. You must have great abs." Then like a big sweat just rolls down my face, and I'm like, yeah, it's just, as long as there's no follow-up questions, yeah, no, I do. You know, get out of there. So now here's a meditation though for healing sexual shame. If you have any severe trauma, sexual trauma, go easy on this. You know, you might want to do this with a therapist. But in general, it should be okay. So, I would just invite you to get into the meditative posture. You can stretch, move your head around, and get into a meditative posture with your back straight but loose. If you're sitting in a chair, have your feet firmly on the ground. Yeah. Pushing the crown of your head up towards the ceiling. Good. And now, I'd invite you to take 3 deep breaths. You can just take a super deep breath. Hold it below the belly and slowly release. Good. And now, take a second super deep breath. Hold it below the belly and slowly release. Good. Last one, super deep breath. Hold below the belly and slowly I would invite you to do a quick body scan. And you can just focus your awareness on your forehead. Just notice your forehead and smooth it out. Moving down around your eyes, softening the muscles around your eyes. Moving down into your cheeks, down into your jaw, and just softening the muscles of your jaw nice and loose. A wave of warm, loving awareness spreading down your neck, into your shoulders. A rolling wave of warmth, rolling down your arms, rolling down your torso, down your back. Loving, warm awareness, moving slowly down your body, down. Loosen the belly, loosen the hips. Warmth rolling down your thighs and legs, down your calves, all the way down to your feet, firmly planted on the ground, like roots of a tree. Good. And now notice your breathing. Notice your breathing. And as you notice your breathing, notice the breath coming in, down your throat, and bathing your lungs, and filling your diaphragm and belly with a healing, nourishing light, and with a special energy. Breathing in, filling your lungs, filling your diaphragm, your belly being filled with nourishing, warm, loving light. And with each exhale, your breath carries away pain, shame, trauma, hurt, fear. Inhale, warm, nourishing light. Exhale, all the junk. You might even picture it as a black mist. Inhale, nourishing light. Exhale, the junk. And you just keep breathing. And you allow yourself to settle. And you just notice that you are safe. You are free. And you're allowed to take this time to care for yourself. Because your desires matter. Your beautiful body matters. Your responses, emotions, your thoughts, your sensations all matter. And now invite into the space a protective presence. This could be a spiritual being, a guide, an angel, an ancestor, some presence that feels safe and protective for you. This could even be an animal presence, an animal spirit. Or it can be a warm, healing ray of light. But you notice this presence and you feel it in your body. And notice what it is about this presence that allows you to feel so supported, soothed, and deeply protected. Yeah. And you just dwell in this loving presence. And now, begin to think of some light event, nothing too serious, some experience or message, nothing that harmful, but something that's resulted in you feeling shame about your body or sexuality. It could be some thought, I'm not worthy of sex, I'm ugly, I'm 30 pounds overweight, I have loose skin and I'm disgusted, whatever it is. Something not too intense right now. Bring up that thought. Hold it in your mind or your memory, whatever it is. Yeah. And reminding yourself that you're safe, being held in divine love and protection. Follow that memory or feeling all the way back to the age when you first had this experience and you first received this message. Yeah. Back to the memory. And just with gentle tenderness, no judgment, simply acknowledge that experience. You're not going to fight it. You just say, yes, that did bring shame and suffering. You just notice that. A shame and suffering you've carried way too long. Notice any emotions that you might be feeling, anything arising. And keep noticing the warm light, the divine presence, the compassionate protection that you're in now. And while knowing you're safe and protected, go ahead and name that experience. Name those emotions. What are you feeling? What are the thoughts? What's the story you're telling yourself? Yeah. Just take a moment with that. Because you're just curious. You're just curious. And right now it's safe to explore this shame. Notice, where are the emotions held in your body? Are they concentrated or stuck in one area? Are they flowing? Notice where this is arising in your body. Yeah. And wherever they are in your body, you can picture yourself breathing in the light and have the light go to those places. Breathe in, the breath, the light goes right to those places just with tenderness and care. Breathe in, and that life-giving light and breath goes right to those places in your body. And you just acknowledge them with tenderness and compassion. If you want, you may even put your hand gently on your heart as you send this love and regard to all these hurtful, shameful feelings. Yeah. And now, perhaps these feelings might be feeling a bit loose from your body. Perhaps you can sense a movement as the light circulates through your body. Yeah. And perhaps you even imagine that these emotions are moving. They're moving, getting unstuck from your body. And with every exhalation, they're released. Breathe in the light. Exhale all the pain and shame. Breathe in the light. Exhale all the shame. You can picture those emotions like black mist that come up out of your body and they leave through your breath. Yeah. And you know your breath is always carrying oxygen and nourishment to every single cell, billions of cells in your body. And it's taking away CO2 and what's not necessary. constantly, 24/7. And your breath is also cleansing you of all negativity. And the emotions are flowing away like waves leaving the shore. And even if they return, as emotions sometimes do, they don't stay. They don't become stuck. And you can just observe them with tender compassion and watch them flow away into the ocean of healing waters and light and loving awareness. Yeah. And it's being released more and more. Yeah. Remind yourself you are protected, you are held in loving compassion. And if there are any other feelings of shame in your body, just name them with tenderness. And you can just let that sensation be as it is for right now. You can leave it. Just returning to your breath. And now, I'd imagine a warm, healing light shining in that part of your body. The part of your body that might still have sensations of shame. And this warm, healing light is soothing the sensation. And you see this warm, healing light healing the shame. And you notice the sensations are being released, soothed, healed by this loving light. Your mind is being updated, clear, shifting. And as the light swirls around these sensations, the sensations are fading as the light is healing you. And you see them fading as the light gets brighter. Yeah. And any negative, harmful message or script you've told yourself about these feelings, which you can picture now, any negative, harmful message or script that others may have told you, just with gentle compassion, acknowledge that pain. Acknowledge the suffering those thoughts have brought to you. Those thoughts. And we can set an intention to release these thoughts. And this is so powerful. You don't even have to say it out loud, but you can. Inside, you make an intention to release these thoughts and say, I am ready to release these negative thoughts. I'm aligned with different messages, more positive messages. I free myself from shame and pain that these messages have brought me. I am releasing these thoughts, beliefs, messages of negativity and shame. And as you release these negative thoughts, you picture the healing light infusing your entire being. This light penetrates you deeply and rises in your innermost being. And you can imagine these negative messages being released like dark birds into the air as the light infuses every memory, every cell, your entire body and being, and it cleans all that out. Now let's take a moment and create a new, positive, affirming message. The opposite. I am worthy of love. a sexual being. I deserve sexual pleasure, whatever it is. Anything that feels loving and positive. Anything that honors their sexuality. Come up with that right now. And now repeat it 3 times. 1, 2, and 3. And you're free. And you breathe deeply. And now notice your breath now. Is it lighter? And feel its potency, the potency of your breath that confirms your healing, your release, and your freedom. Does the breath feel differently? And if it does, that's how you know there's been a shift. And that from this point forward, anytime you get stuck in some negative emotion or thoughts that result in shame, you can just repeat this positive mantra, and your mind will remember to release. Because now you're empowered and ready to create a positive sexual identity. And this new identity brings you freedom, pleasure, vibrancy, belonging, and well-being. Yeah. And as you feel this shifting, and things continue to shift, as they shift later into the future, throughout the night when you dream into tomorrow, you might be surprised to feel this new connection with your erotic self, and notice those feelings, those light, loving feelings, just as you go throughout your day. You might be surprised to notice them. And now, return to your breath. Breathe in. Exhale. Breathe in. Exhale. Breathe in. Exhale. And when you're ready, but only when you're ready, I'm going to count 5 to 1. You can come back. And when I reach 1, you'll be back in the room, safe, secure, and present. And 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Back in the room. And slowly blink eyes open. And we just take a moment to orient ourselves. And perhaps you can name 5 things in the room. Just look around. Yeah. And now you can touch something, the chair, and just notice the texture. And now, listen. Perhaps sounds are a little sharper. What's the loudest sound in your room right now that you can hear? Yeah. And perhaps you can find something to smell and even taste. And now you're back. I appreciate you guys commenting on these videos. If you have any suggestions, let me know. The next will be about increasing desire, according to Emily Nagoski. I'll see you then.